I mean, part of it could be that it's like you're trying to fix an unfixable truck while it's billowing down the highway at 140 miles an hour towards the cliff.
No. Why? No. I'm talking about, did they not realize the truck would be billowing down the road at that?
Yeah, I think they did, but if you're going to give them any credit, then they just realized it too late. And that's why they're just trying to cram in. That's why they crammed in 6 million immigrants in 9 years.
No, but now there's a whole bunch of other issues. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking of the other stuff that gave them their supposed reason to do it. I'm talking about the actual destruction that it caused.
Well, I don't know. It depends. You could be so woke that you just assume there's no difference between us and Indians with an IQ of 78.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's not even about that. It's just about like managing it properly with the right speed and the right,
Maybe there's just no managing it. Maybe you just have to have the kids because you can't cram these people together at the end of the day. Because I'm not even a Christian, but I'm still at the end of the day not super interested in living in any of the nations that aren't Christian nations, like are not like founded on those principles.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I mean. Like it should be slowly. Like it was going fine to me in the 70s and 80s when we had a couple 100,000 a year or whatever. Like that.
I don't know. I mean, you could maybe comment. I don't know where you were at those times, but I wasn't in like downtown Toronto or downtown Calgary or maybe.
Yeah, well, I was in Richmond and it was basically in Asia,
already,
Asia.
Right?
Yeah, and Surrey, and which was already Punjabi or Sikh or whatever it was. So I mean, I was already, but it's the rule of law and the rules-based system, right? If you're bringing people over, like they have to follow the rules, just like. And it's the same thing that I'm pissed off about crime in general, right? Like I'm an ex-addict, right? So I knew that I was afraid of getting arrested for doing stuff that was illegal, right? We need that again. We need people to be afraid of getting arrested. They need to hit bottom, right?
Rock bottom, baby.
No?
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of rock bottom, after years of self-inflicted erasure of the Canadian identity, the 51st state push serves as a wake-up call.
That's what I was wondering. It might be a wake-up call. So interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
flags were bad. Like a few years, Canadian flags were bad a few years ago. Now it's
Canadian flags were bad. I mean, I'm old enough to remember.
We showed all that. We showed all this, and what happened?
I'm old enough to remember when a Canadian flag meant you were a racist.
That's a good meme. Have you done that meme yet? I mean, we got to do that meme. Have you seen it?
You're the meme maker.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, we got to do that because that's so good. Yeah. Just a short few years ago.
Whether President-elect Donald Trump's campaign for Canada joined the funny thing is I still think Trump's just trolling us. And the fact that the entire country is getting riled up just makes it even funnier. I mean,
it really highlights the problem, right? It really highlights the problems.
I bet he's cracking up. He's fucking cracking up. And I mean, it started as a joke, and then like all the politicians are getting all riled up. But here's the problem: now these pricks are making threats.
No, dude, the North America TechNet is a thing. I mean, they have wanted this, so I think it. I don't think. I think it's interesting that Trump would wait till he was elected, and now he's throwing it out there. I think he wants it. It's not a joke. It's not a troll. They want it. They want. Look at what's his name? Who's that Dragon's Den guy? He's talking about one currency. Like he's talking about like a medium sort of thing. I think, right? Like they don't have to become like right away, but we're going to combine currencies. We're going to do a bunch of things. Like that's what he's pushing for.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Share resources and open things up a bit.
They'll start with a resource agreement. But the problem is Canada's got resources agreements to figure out with its Indians.
Or how about, or with themselves. I mean, how about the transfer payments that are happening? I mean, you could say in some regard, those are resource agreements that are not good. Like, how about some provinces start pulling their weight?
No, cut them loose.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, go ahead.
So, whether Trump's campaign for Canada to join the United States is a negotiation strategy, a passing fancy, or reflects a genuine belief, it has provoked a defiant and fiery never from Canadian politicians and public figures across the spectrum. But the backlash against the idea of becoming the 51st state exposes a deep contradiction where in recent years there's been systematic effort to erase the Canadian identity and founding history. This eruption of patriotic fervor is taking place in a country which has been the subject of a statue toppling campaign directed against its historical figures, more than a dozen from 2020 to 2022 alone. The targets have ranged from Queen Victoria to Egerton Ryerson, a pioneer of public education in Ontario, whose statue at what was formerly Ryerson University, renamed Toronto Metropolitan, was torn down and beheaded by a mob of demonstrators in 2021.
What about the 100 and something churches that have been burned down too?
Well, that would be less of a patriotic thing. This is more talking about the nationalism sort of angle of it. So the most common target has been Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, whose statues have been removed by city councils or pulled down by protesters as police stood by in Hamilton, Kingston, Picton, Baden, Victoria, Charlottetown, Regina, and Montreal. Vigorous discussions of all aspects of national history, including Macdonald's role in the residential school system, is part of a healthy democracy. However, this all-out campaign to erase a founder's memory strikes deep at uprooting a nation's being. Sir John A. Macdonald was a staunch British loyalist and fervent Canadian nationalist who was a key figure in uniting the British North America colonies and Confederation and blah, blah, blah. In 1891, blah, blah, blah. So,
hang on. Thus a nation that
where?
There's a couple paragraphs from where you started. Thus a nation with its I don't know.
Thus a nation that has watched the cancellation of many of its historical heroes finds itself ironically consumed once more by the same deep patriotism that animated and inspired these heroes. More interesting still, many perhaps are waking up to the reality that slogans such as inclusivity, which in fact were used to exclude people, and historical aspects found undesired to the anti-traditional thinking, were what got us into this present situation where people are questioning what the Canadian identity is. Inclusivity, the desire to strip away anything that might potentially offend the sensitivities of the few, is reflected in such absurd instances as a BC government writing guide which cautions against using the term British Columbians because it may exclude Indigenous people who do not identify as British Columbia, along with newcomers and refugees.
What a great example.
We can also see this in the federal program unveiling of a new passport design in 2023 that emphasized Canada's diverse landscapes and people, and removed historical images of the fathers of the Confederation, Vimy Ridge, and Terry Fox. Similarly, internal documents have revealed that the Canadian Navy is discussing replacing the Heart of Oak, the historical marching anthem, with something more inclusive. Controversies over old Navy songs and symbolism in passports are debates over a more fundamental question. Do we value and wish to preserve certain particular attributes of our specific country that differentiate us from other countries? So, the commitment to inclusivity has been put to the test by the 51st state proposal. If our national identity is truly inclusive to the whole world, would it not logically follow that our identity could be extended to encompass a political union with our neighbor, the United States? For the vast majority of the country,
that's a really interesting point, right? It's just one more step towards globalism. You want to be global, you don't want an identity. Well, here we go. We'll just become part of the whole.
Yeah. So
for the vast majority of
the country, this is a bridge too far. The past few weeks of backlash have revealed that Canadians remain convinced that we have a distinctive identity worth preserving,
or not.
That we are more than just an inclusive blank canvas. We are a nation, a people with our own history, culture, and virtues. Recognizing that we do indeed have a unique national identity to fight for should spur Canadians to remember our forefathers who endowed us with many of the institutions, values, and heritage that make up this identity.
Well, I mean, I don't really like how this guy didn't write, or this person didn't write, what was the current state of, like that there's problems. Like there's a bunch of people that want to leave because they've wanted to leave for the last 4 or 5, 8 years, whatever, since things are getting out of control, not sustainable.
The sentiment Canadians feel towards their country is subtler and more understated than in most places in the world, but it took an external provocation for many to realize how deep their love of Canada really is.
No,
What they have allowed to transpire
well, this is now just
in
bullshit.
the erasing of the comfort, the country's roots.